My lemon lime icebox pie with graham cracker crust recipe is easy and delicious. Inspired by a traditional Mexican dessert, this is one you're definitely going to want to try. Let's go over the ingredients. For a 9-inch pie, you will need one 14-ounce can of sweetened condensed milk, 8 ounces of some sort of cream. You could use heavy whipping cream, but I'm going to use table cream. It's a type of canned cream that's available in a lot of Latin markets. It's not quite as fatty as heavy whipping cream is, so I think it's going to let the other flavors come through a little bit better. But you can definitely make this dessert with 8 ounces of heavy whipping cream or even an 8-ounce block of softened cream cheese. You're going to need 7 ounces of Maria cookies. They're similar to graham crackers, but they're thinner. If you don't have those, you could definitely use some graham crackers. We need some lemon lime flavoring, so we're going to add 1/6 of a cup of lime juice, 40 grams, and 1/6 of a cup of lemon juice, 40 grams, along with 1 tablespoon of zest. I'm using 2 teaspoons of lime zest and 1 teaspoon of lemon, but you can change that up however you want. The cinnamon is not required, but I definitely recommend adding some cinnamon to this. I'm going to start off with half a teaspoon in the bottom of the pie crust, and then probably an extra half a teaspoon to a teaspoon in the filling. Also going to add a couple dashes of salt to balance out the flavors, but that is it. Like I said, this recipe is really easy. All we have to do is combine the sweetened condensed milk and cream together, and then add the lemon juice, lime juice, and zest, and then layer everything into the graham cracker crust. I am using a homemade graham cracker crust. Let's see if I can remember to link to the recipe in the description box, but you can definitely use a store-bought crust. Now that the sweetened condensed milk and cream are mixed together, I'm going to add the lime juice and the lemon juice. If you want to make this with all lemon or all lime, you definitely could. But I really like the combination of lemon with lime. I think the flavor is actually superior. When you first start mixing together the juice and your sweetened condensed milk and your cream, whatever type you use, it's going to look like it's not going to combine. It's going to look like the recipe is ruined. Just keep stirring, and as you can see, it's going to come together. It's only been a couple of minutes, and as you can see, the cream is already thickening up. That's what happens when you add acidic juice to dairy. So I'm going to start assembling the no-bake icebox cake. Here I have my homemade graham cracker crust. Like I said, you can use store-bought. Even though it already does have some cinnamon, I'm going to sprinkle in a little bit more. I just love cinnamon, not only with this lemon lime icebox cake, but just with graham cracker crust in general. So even if you use a store-bought crust, I think sprinkling in a little bit of cinnamon, not just in this recipe, but a cheesecake or whatever type of recipe you're making, a little bit of extra cinnamon in the bottom of a store-bought graham cracker crust is gonna go a long way to make it taste more homemade. Now let's start assembling it. I recommend starting with the cream layer. Now that the first layer of cream is in the pie crust, I'm just going to layer in my Maria cookies. This looks like I'm going to have to break them. Around the edge here, I'm going to have to put in some broken cookies too. Now that the first layer of the Maria cookies is in, now they're just light sprinkling of salt, a little more cinnamon. Like I said, I think I'm going to use an extra half a teaspoon but we'll see. I really like cinnamon, so I might put in a little more than you would. Honestly, you do not have to add the cinnamon. If you want to, you could do a little bit of nutmeg. Just be careful with the nutmeg because it is kind of strong. But I think citrus and cinnamon go together very nicely. So I think it's definitely worth adding to this. Now I'm going to add another layer. I put on my thick layer of cream, some extra cinnamon, and another sprinkling of salt. So now for the second and final layer of the Maria cookies. Now I'm going to just pour the rest of this on top and then smooth it out. The pie is now assembled. Just taking a spoon to smooth out the top. Make sure all the cookies are covered and bring the filling to the edge so that you can seal it. Now I'm just going to put this into a refrigerator, uncovered for at least 4 hours, if not overnight, so that the cookies can soften and the flavors can marry. My no-bake lemon lime icebox pie with graham cracker crust has been chilling for 5 hours, so now I'm getting ready to serve it. This is optional, but I recommend sprinkling the zest of a small lime and a small lemon on top, along with some extra cinnamon, maybe 1/8 to 1/4 teaspoon. And I have 3 extra Maria cookies that I'm just going to crumble on top to add some extra texture. These are optional, but I think they're going to add a nice texture. Although these extra toppings are optional, I highly recommend that you add them because, as you can see, they really make the icebox pie look more interesting, especially the pop of color from the lemon and lime zest. This looked absolutely incredible, so I couldn't wait to give it a try. And when I did, I knew that my no-bake lemon lime icebox cake with graham cracker crust recipe was a big success because it was absolutely delicious. First of all, the flavor. Of course, this had a good citrus flavor, but to be honest, it was more in the background than I was anticipating. This icebox cake definitely had cinnamon as the main flavor, probably because I added so much. If you love cinnamon like I do, then that's not going to be a problem. But if you want the citrus to come through a little bit more than the cinnamon does, I would recommend using a little bit less. Maybe 1/4 to 1/2 teaspoon in the entire pie. Although the flavor was fantastic, what I really liked about this dessert was the texture. The smooth, cool, creamy filling contrasted very nicely against the crunchy graham cracker crust. I also liked the bit of added crunch on top with the crumbled cookies, and that texture was a little bit different from the graham cracker crust, so honestly there were actually 3 textures in this dessert. And with the softened Maria cookies, there might actually be 4 textures. Flavor and texture aside, I also liked the visual. Now that I'm holding a slice up to the camera, you can see all the different layers. The graham cracker crust, the layers of cream and Maria cookies, along with the extra cinnamon zest and Maria cookie crumbs on top. The presence of multiple layers being a good visual representation of the complexity of flavors in this pie. So in short, I was really pleased with how this dessert turned out. It was my first time making it, but honestly I thought it turned out pretty much perfectly. Although I probably wouldn't change anything about this recipe besides maybe using a little bit less cinnamon so that the lemon and lime flavor could come through a bit more. One thing I did want to point out is that the graham cracker crust was very prominent in this dessert. I know that earlier in the video I said this was inspired by a Mexican dessert, so I wanted to talk about that quickly. This is inspired by the traditional Mexican dessert called Carlota de Limón, which is made with Maria cookies, sweetened condensed milk, evaporated milk, lime juice, and lime zest. I'm releasing this video right before the new year, so if you're looking for a unique United States Mexican fusion dessert recipe to try in 2025 to start the year off with something new, or maybe later in the summer, a nice tropical treat, this is an easy dessert that you can make and enjoy. I have a lot more great recipes, some of them fusion, coming up this year, so stay tuned. As always, thanks for watching. See you next time.